My sister's $150,000 birthday party was held at TMI restaurant. When she saw me, she told security, "Kick that homeless woman out." But then she read the owner's name. I gave her the surprise. I never thought the day would come when my own sister would kick me out of my own hotel mercilessly in the middle of booming music and fake laughter from people who didn't even know who I was. "Get that homeless girl out of here, she's ruining the luxury vibe." That line coming from Sophie, the little sister I had protected throughout our childhood, hit me in the face like a slap in front of the crowd. I stood frozen, not from shame, but from pain. And what hurt even more was realizing everyone in my family knew about this beforehand, and no one stopped it. It was a September evening in Austin, Texas. The Red Cypress Hotel, the place I had poured 10 years of my youth into building from scratch, now turned into a stage for a pretentious birthday party. Sophie walked into the grand lobby in a shimmering dress, arm wrapped around her new boyfriend Ethan, followed by a group of people dressed like they were attending the Met Gala instead of a 30th birthday bash. I was standing at the front desk, having just wrapped up a final employee check, when she looked straight at me like I was a stain on the marble floor. "Oh my God, who let a homeless woman wander into the hotel?" she laughed, then turned to a confused staff member. "You, please handle this situation for me. This is a private party. No one is allowed to ruin the vibe." I didn't bother to respond. I just looked at her, into those eyes that showed no recognition, no guilt at all. Daniel, my event manager, saw what was happening from a distance and rushed over, his face going pale as he realized I was being insulted by my own client. "I'm so sorry, Miss Lila. I didn't know when they got in. Do you want me to cancel the event right now?" I just shook my head. "No, let them continue." I needed to know how many more people in this mess knew and stayed silent. The answer came faster than I expected. In the lavishly decorated banquet room with white orchids and golden ribbons, I saw my parents. My mother, wearing the dress I gave her last year for their anniversary, and my father, holding a glass of wine, chatting with Ethan's family. They weren't even embarrassed to see me. They simply nodded like I was hotel staff. No one asked why I was standing quietly in the corner. No one apologized for what happened in the lobby. Sophie stood in the center of the room, raising her champagne glass high. "Thank you everyone for coming, and especially thank you to my big sister Lila, who secretly sponsored the entire event tonight." The room erupted in applause. I stood still, numb. I had never agreed to pay a dime for this party, but looking at my mother's pleased eyes, Sophie's triumphant smile, and the loud clapping around me, I understood they had planned it all. They didn't ask, they just assumed I would pay. I pulled out my phone and texted Clara, the hotel CFO, "Check all tonight's invoices. If there is any expense under my name that I haven't approved, freeze it immediately." Then I left the room. No one called me back. No one asked where I was going. It was in that moment I knew I had never truly been family to them. I was just a walking wallet with a blood tie. 3 days after that humiliating party, I showed up at my parents' house in Lakewood, North Austin, in response to an invitation I knew was just a disguised family meeting. The 2-story red brick house looked exactly the same as it had since high school, except for the oak tree in the yard, now cut down and replaced by a fake-looking white bench, as fake as the morals of the people inside. My mother, Margaret, opened the door with a smile more formal than a bank teller's. "Lila, you're here. Come in. We've been waiting for you." Before I could say anything, she turned and walked away like I was a late food delivery. The dining table was set carefully with the porcelain dishes my mother only brought out for Christmas, or when something serious was going on. I sat across from my father Thomas, who was tearing a piece of bread like it might save him from the conversation ahead. Sophie sat slightly turned, one leg crossed, wearing a fitted emerald dress that showed off the figure she always bragged about like it was her life's greatest achievement. "You know," Sophie began, raising her red wine glass to eye level, I think this 30th birthday should be something on the scale of a reality TV show. I didn't respond. I just looked her in the eye, waiting for the performance to begin. I've talked to some people in the event planning scene. There's a rooftop space at the VO Blue Hotel, straight view of the Pennybacker Bridge. We could have a suspended champagne bar, live music stage, even a floral fountain. Sophie paused for effect, then shrugged like it was nothing. I looked over at my mother. She said nothing. I turned to my father. He was still gnawing on his bread. The estimated cost, Sophie continued, pulling a color-printed sheet from her purse, is around $95,000. But, if we want to go full-on iconic, we'll need at least $110,000, including video production fees. And you want me to pay for that? I asked. Not loud, but sharp enough to freeze the room. Sophie raised an eyebrow. I mean, you own a hotel. You don't really spend on yourself. You wear black all the time, drive that old Honda. But me, I'm a content creator. I need to invest in my image. This is a career opportunity. I let out a dry laugh. Oh, I thought it was a birthday. My mom set her spoon down on the plate, the sound ringing out like a warning bell. Sophie's got a point. You're in a better position. What's the harm in helping your sister out just this once? I remember you once promised to always take care of the family. I turned to her. Take care of the family, or be an unlimited sponsor for meaningless shows. My father finally spoke. Let's not get too worked up, Lila. We're just having a calm conversation here. I nodded. Calm? You all made plans to spend my money without asking me. And you call that calm? Sophie laughed. The laugh of someone who knows they're backed up. Come on, don't make it sound like I'm mooching off you. I'm not asking for pocket money. This is an investment. When the party video goes live, I'll tag you, promote your hotel. It's a win-win. Win for who? I said through clenched teeth, heart pounding stiff in my chest. I lose $110,000, and you get to be iconic. Great deal. My mother sighed, a sound I once mistook for love, but now just sounded like rehearsed disappointment. Lila, you're the responsible one. Sophie, she's a dreamer. It's not her fault you were born with a more practical head. Sisters helping each other is normal. That sentence cut into me like a blade already sharpened. I wasn't a person. I was stability, a walking ATM that shows up on time, not allowed to object. I placed my napkin on the table. Sisters help each other when it's mutual, not when one hands over a bill and says, "You pay." If that's what this family calls love, then I'm sorry, I can't live in that definition anymore. Sophie raised an eyebrow. You're being serious? I looked her straight in the eye. Dead serious. No one said a word when I stood up. No one stopped me as I walked away from the table. But just as I reached the door, I heard my mother say, loud enough for me to catch, "The more money that girl has, the colder she gets." I didn't turn around, I didn't respond. In that moment, I realized all these years I'd never really been a daughter in this house. I'd been the backup financial plan B, filling the gap between delusional dreams and nameless bills. I didn't think anything could be worse than being treated like a walking wallet by my own family, until I opened Instagram the next morning. A notification popped up at the top of the screen. @Sophie Rose added 3 new stories. I had no reason to watch, but my thumb tapped anyway, an old habit I hadn't shaken, like knowing you're about to see something painful but looking anyway. First frame, Sophie in a white limousine parked in front of the Vela Blue Hotel, her hair in waves, lips bright red, raising a champagne glass like a queen on parade. When your sister drives a 2012 Civic but owns a 5-star hotel, can someone explain this? Below it, the laughing emoji rolling on the floor. Next clip, a shaky video, clearly taken from a car, my car. I was stepping out of my house, old coat, messy ponytail, holding a document folder, and Sophie had made a split screen. On one side, me, on the other, her and her friends in a glamorously decorated venue with the caption, When you invest all your money into land but forget to invest in your image. I didn't need to scroll to the comments. What was on the screen was already enough to cut deep. OMG, how can someone be rich and live like that? Stop pretending to be poor girl, be real. Who'd let her do PR for a hotel? That place is doomed. The only sound I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears. I set the phone down on the table, took a deep breath, and looked up at the ceiling like it might hold the answer. One question echoing in my mind. Why? Why Sophie? Why my own sister? I didn't react publicly. I didn't repost, didn't write some angry status, didn't make a response video. But something inside me cracked, not just a fracture, a quiet collapse, not loud, but heavy like a stone. Clara, my finance assistant, texted me at 9:00 a.m. Did you see Sophie's new story? Want me to do something? I replied with just one word, no. I opened my laptop, pulled up the quarterly report, buried myself in spreadsheets, but my eyes couldn't focus. The numbers blurred, drowned in the quiet shame spreading through my chest. This wasn't a personal conflict anymore. This was a deliberate attack, public and cowardly. Sophie didn't just want me to silently pay. She wanted to humiliate me. A part of me had grown used to being overlooked. I used to believe that if I just kept my head down and worked hard, eventually my family would see me. But this time was different. This time, I realized I wasn't the victim of neglect anymore. I was the target of calculated disrespect. That night, I sat alone in the kitchen, warm yellow light casting down on the oak table. My house wasn't big, wasn't glamorous, but it was the result of every sleepless night, every dollar I saved back when I worked night shifts as a front desk clerk. I stared at the photo on the wall, me and Sophie as kids, smiling with melting popsicles in our hands. I didn't take it down. I just looked at it in silence. I started writing not a revenge plan, not a hit list, just a list. One line, did they ever love me, or just love what I could offer? Then a second line, if I lost everything, who would still stay? I didn't have the answers yet, but for the first time I felt like I needed to start asking. The next morning, I sent my first message in months to my attorney. I need a full review of all personal assets. Make sure no one has signing authority on my behalf. Urgent. This wasn't emotion anymore. This was preparation. I used to think family was sacred, but now I understand some relationships, if left unchecked, will consume you in silence, and I won't let that happen again. I was in a meeting with the operations team on the 3rd floor of the Red Cypress Hotel, when Clara, my assistant, gently knocked and peeked in. Lila, you have a visitor. I glanced at the clock. 3:14 p.m. I hadn't scheduled anything. Who is it, Miss S? Margaret, Clara whispered. She won't wait in the lobby. My throat instantly went dry. Send her in, I said, my tone sharp like an order. Firmer than necessary, but I knew Clara understood. She nodded and disappeared behind the door. Less than a minute later, my mother walked into the meeting room like it was her living room, long beige coat, oversized, Coach purse looped over her arm, and a perfectly made-up face that couldn't hide the calculation behind it. Your girl Clara is very polite, she said, placing her bag on the chair across from me, then pulling out a small plastic container. I brought your favorite banana bread. Still the same recipe with a touch of cinnamon, good for digestion. I didn't touch the container, I didn't smile. What brings you here, Mom? I asked plainly. She pulled a cream envelope from her purse and placed it on the table between us like a summons. Sophie's documents, she said lightly. I thought you should look over them. I opened the envelope. Inside were 3 color printed A4 pages, stamped by an event planning company called Valeria Events. At the top, in a flowy font, it read, Sophie's 30th birthday celebration. Halfway down the second page, one line stood out in bold, highlighted in pink marker, primary sponsor, Lila Blake, $112,500, confirmed. I looked up. Confirmed? Who exactly confirmed this? Margaret didn't flinch. Sophie can't afford that event, you know that. Your father and we're on retirement income now. You're the only one who can help. Help? I repeated, my voice catching. You're forcing me to pay over $100,000 so my sister can show off online helping? Don't be dramatic, Lila, she said, smoothing the edge of her coat. No one's forcing anything. We just believed you understood your responsibility. Responsibility? The first pushed the papers aside, no longer hiding my fury. Why is it always me? Sophie has hands, a brain, thousands of followers. Why can't she take care of it herself? My mother sighed, the way you do when a child is being difficult. You're the successful one, Lila, the stable one, the eldest. Just this once, let Sophie have her moment. You've always been backstage, supporting everyone. What's so different now? I stood up, unable to stay cornered any longer. What's different? No one asked if I agreed. No one asked how I felt. You all just made plans and sent me the bill. Don't you think that's unfair? It's not unfair, she replied, still seated, voice calm to the point of insult. It's necessary because you're reliable. People count on you, Lila. You should be proud of that. I looked at her like she was speaking a foreign language, not angry, not bitter. Just a strange feeling from someone realizing I was never truly loved, just used. I picked up the banana bread, opened the fridge behind me, and shoved it into the freezer. What are you doing? She asked, startled. The freezer, I said quietly, where things that numb feelings belong. Then I turned back, looked her in the eyes. I'm not signing anything. I'm not paying a dime. No plans will be executed without my approval. She stood up, eyes flashing in disbelief. You've become so hard, Lila, I nodded. Thank you for noticing. You can give Valeria Events my lawyer's contact if they need to talk. Otherwise, don't come here with more plans. I'm not a heartbeat-pounded wallet. She stared at me for a few seconds, then turned and walked out. No goodbye, no words, just a trail of heavy perfume and a birthday budget I never agreed to. I stood in the quiet room, sunlight slanting through the window, casting light on the colorful documents on the table. I didn't tear them. I filed them in the drawer under my desk, labeled with a red marker, evidence. This wasn't about emotion anymore. It wasn't about feelings. This was business. Wednesday morning, while I was reviewing the rooftop maintenance report for Red Cypress, Clara appeared at my office door this time. No knock, no hesitation. In her hand was a thick manila envelope, express delivery from Verity Planning Group, she said flatly, placing it on my desk like she'd just set down a bomb. I looked up at her. Xander, Clara smirked slightly, assistant to Ethan, Sophie's fiancé. Label says you, urgent. Lila Blake, personal and financial. I didn't need to open it to know what I was about to read, but I opened it anyway. Inside was an official booking contract from the Aria Sky Lounge, a luxury rooftop venue in the heart of the city, known for hosting extravagant events with sky-high price tags. The cover had a gold-embossed logo, thick paper stock, and a faint whiff of perfume, one that didn't belong to anyone who knew the value of $1. I flipped to page 5. Under financial guarantor, Lila Blake, sister of the celebrant, signature required by 11/3. Fine print below, in italics. If the primary party fails to make payment, the financial guarantor will assume full legal responsibility. I let out a dry laugh. No call, no explanation, not even a question, just a contract thrown in my face with the expectation that I'd sign it like some old reflex. Clara waited for my reaction. I said nothing. Instead, I slid the entire packet into the drawer beneath my desk, shoved it closed, and locked it with a key. I'm not signing, I figured, Clara said with a slight smirk. Want me to shred it? I shook my head. No, leave it. Label it financial abuse. Step 1. I opened my laptop and created a new folder, Sophie Legal Evidence. Inside, I added subfolders, unauthorized emails and contracts, defamatory and personal attack stories, staff witness statements, event-related. I fed the contract through the scanner beside my desk, placing each page with the precision of logging a criminal case. My hands were steady. I didn't blink. I wasn't the daughter crying in her room anymore after being called ungrateful. I wasn't the older sister gritting her teeth and paying up because the family was struggling. I was the CEO of a nearly $8 million business, and for the first time in my life, I was handling family like I'd handle a high-risk partner. That afternoon, I sent a short email to the hotel's legal team. Subject: deny all unverified personal submissions. Message: we do not accept any contracts, agreements, or financial proposals submitted by third parties on behalf of Lila Blake unless expressly confirmed in writing with verified documentation by Lila Blake. All other requests are to be denied and forwarded directly to legal. Lila B. I didn't email Sophie, no text, no call. I let her wonder what I was doing. Silence, if long enough, becomes a wall. And I was building one she couldn't climb with demands or with crocodile tears. 3 days later, I got a message from Mom. Sophie, sad you haven't responded. She just wanted to make a beautiful memory. I didn't reply. I just filed the message in the evidence folder. That evening, as I locked up my office, I stood before the mirror in the Red Cypress Lounge. I looked at myself, eyes tired from lack of sleep, shirt slightly wrinkled at the shoulder, a chipped nail, but the eyes in the mirror weren't confused anymore. They were sharp as knives and calm as a lake before a storm. Sophie didn't realize that every time she tried to corner me with a new demand, I didn't just retreat. I recorded, I documented, I built a legal trail. Because this time, if they pushed me to the edge, I wasn't alone. I had the law, I had paperwork, and I had me a version of me no longer willing to excuse manipulation just because it came dressed as family. That day, the Red Cypress Hotel glowed like a fairy tale castle. The late afternoon sun lit up the wide lobby windows in gold. White orchids lined the halls with elegant precision, and soft music played from the rooftop balcony where Sophie's birthday party was about to begin. A party she organized at my hotel through a third-party vendor without notice, without permission, not even the courtesy of asking. Sophie thought she was clever. She thought that by booking the event through an outside company, I wouldn't dare interfere, that I'd stay quiet to keep the peace. But she forgot one thing: I don't play by the old rules anymore. Clara walked beside me, tablet in hand, showing the event schedule and guest list. She paused by the security monitor, swiped gently, then pointed to the center screen. 15 minutes ago, main lobby camera. I looked. Sophie appeared, her arm locked with Ethan, her new boyfriend. Behind them were Ethan's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Dalton, well-known real estate investors from Houston. They walked in like they owned the place, scanning every detail like they were appraising it. Sophie led them through the lobby like a self-permitted tour guide, her hand waving at the crystal chandeliers and the marble spiral staircase. I didn't need audio to know what she was saying. The chandeliers from Italy took 8 months to ship. My family's in interior design. I adjusted the sleeve of my navy blazer, took a deep breath, and began descending the main staircase. Each click of my heels on the marble echoed through the lobby like a silent declaration. Heads turned, and Sophie froze mid-sentence, her eyes wide, part shock, part panic. I stopped halfway down the stairs, a faint smile playing on my lips. "Welcome to Red Cypress," I said clearly, my voice low but firm. "I'm Lila Blake, founder and CEO of this hotel." The room froze for a few seconds. Mrs. Dalton, platinum hair in a neat bun, eyes sharp as blades, narrowed her gaze at me. "You're the owner of this place?" I stepped down 2 more stairs, the lights catching my collar, reflecting the calm I had spent years building. "Yes." From the very first foundation to every chandelier, she just mistakenly said was imported from Italy. Ethan swallowed hard, and Sophie went pale. "Sophie, Mr. Dalton turned to his son. "Your fiancé said this hotel was owned by a family friend. There must be some kind of misunderstanding." Sophie stammered, scrambling to save face. "Lila is my sister. We're very close. This is just family helping each other." I stepped closer, locking eyes with her. Close? So close that you hosted an event here without asking, put the invoice under my name, and posted mocking videos to thousands of people? No one said a word. I turned to Miss S. Dalton. I apologize for the confusion, but just to be clear, Red Cypress does not sponsor, is not affiliated with, and does not represent anyone outside of our professionally trained and approved staff. Miss S. Dalton nodded slowly, her expression shifting completely. Thank you for the transparency. I have great respect for people who know their boundaries, and they're worth a rare trait. Mr. Dalton added, casting a puzzled glance toward Sophie. Ethan said nothing, but his face said everything: doubt, embarrassment, discomfort. As for Sophie, she stood frozen. I turned to Clara, who remained calm as ever. Please escort the Dalton family to the terrace. I'll personally show them the official Red Cypress event space. We'd be delighted. Miss S. Dalton smiled. I walked away, not looking back, but I heard the unsteady clack of Sophie's heels trailing behind. Lila, wait. You don't have to make a scene like this. I stopped just enough to let my gaze meet hers and said softly, this isn't making a scene. This is me finally standing in the place I belong. That night, I went home alone, no parties, no fireworks, no champagne toasts, just me, my small kitchen, the warm yellow light, and a silence that felt different this time. Not heavy, not hollow, but the silence of closure. I was making tea when my phone rang. The name flashing on the screen made me pause. Dad Thomas Blake. I let it ring 3 times before picking up. I'm here. Hey there, princess, he said evenly, with a touch of awkwardness. I'm sure you know why I'm calling. I said nothing, let him flounder. He cleared his throat. About what happened this afternoon, it's just that, maybe you reacted a little too strongly. I frowned. Too strongly? Well, it was Sophie's birthday, her birthday week. Everyone's tense. No need to blow things out of proportion. I sat down, tea still untouched in my hand. Were you there, Dad? I asked quietly. I was watching from afar. Sophie got a bit carried away, sure, but she's still family. No, Dad, that's not family. That's a group of blood relatives who keep dumping everything on one person and calling it duty. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. Then he said, I just want peace in the family, no fights. Things should be resolved peacefully. I let out a small, cold laugh. Peacefully? You call me being publicly insulted peace? You call Sophie hijacking my hotel, making up lies, and trying to force me to guarantee a contract no big deal? She's young. She doesn't think as far ahead as you do. No, Dad, she's not young. She's 30. She made a choice. And you, Mom, everyone, you all chose to stay silent. His voice softened. I'm sorry if you felt abandoned, but I hope this doesn't mean you'll push the family away. I stood up, a wave of quiet exhaustion washing over me. No one's pushing anyone, Dad. I'm just stepping back. I'm tired of holding everything together, of being the peacemaker, the provider, the shield every time Sophie wrecks things and disappears. Lila, you can't just turn your back. I'm not turning my back, I cut him off. I'm letting go of a role I never chose to play. Silence stretched on the other end. For the first time, my father had nothing more to say, and I didn't wait. I hung up. The next day, I received an email from my mother, no subject line, no greeting. You may not agree with how Sophie behaved, but the way you handled things in front of her fiancé's family was cruel. Sometimes being the older sister means sacrificing a little, even when the other person doesn't deserve it. That's how you keep a family together. I didn't reply. I filed the email into the folder labeled Emotional Manipulation, Phase 2. That evening, I drove past the old childhood house at the end of Magnolia Street. I didn't plan to stop, just slowed down a little. The lights were still on, the scent of freshly cut grass still lingered. The wind still rustled the trees out front. But for the first time, I felt nothing, no memories, no ache, no urge to go back. I used to believe that if I worked hard enough, gave enough, succeeded enough. They would see me, they would appreciate me, they would love me. But now I understood some families don't need you to be happy. They just need you to be useful. I wasn't useful anymore, and that set me free. 2 weeks after the Sophie earthquake, my life moved quietly, but not sadly. No more demanding texts, no more late-night calls pretending to check in, no one showing up expecting me to clean up the messes wrapped in the word family. And I could breathe for the first time in years. I could actually breathe. On Tuesday morning, I was in my 5th-floor office, coffee in hand, laptop open to the expansion plans for the new San Antonio location, when Clara walked in, no knock this time. In her hand was an iPad. "You'll want to see this." I took it, and the moment the screen lit up, I already knew what was coming. A video was going viral on TikTok. Sophie, no makeup, no filters, sitting in the pale white living room at my mother's house. Her eyes were puffy, her voice shaky. I was overconfident. I thought I could control everything. I relied on others instead of taking responsibility. She didn't say my name, but everyone knew who she meant. The comments were clearly divided into 2 camps. One side was sympathetic. The other called her out for crocodile tears. "Weren't you the one mocking your sister on social media?" Thought being an influencer meant no consequences in real life? Lila is the real woman to admire here. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel pity. I just felt light, like I'd finally set down a backpack full of stones, not because someone helped me carry it, but because I chose to let it go. Just a few days later, the media team's report showed a 17% increase in bookings and event inquiries at Red Cypress compared to the previous month. Several new partners, including the Dalton family's representatives, sent proposals for long-term collaboration. One of them wrote, "We're impressed not just by the quality of service, but by the calm confidence and personal integrity of Miss Lila Blake. People like her make a real difference in this industry." I read that line over and over, not because I needed to, but because for the first time, I was seen for who I really was, not through the lens of duty, sacrifice, or expectation, just me and my true worth. One night, I drove through the West End not to see anyone, just to look back. My old place, the tiny apartment I once rented when I started my business, was now a bakery. I smiled softly, then kept driving, no stopping, no nostalgia, no regret. I don't need anyone to say sorry anymore. I don't need a handwritten letter from my mother. I don't need Sophie crying and apologizing. Because I've learned something that took my whole youth to understand. Peace doesn't come from someone else's remorse. It comes from the moment you choose to treat yourself like someone who matters. I used to be the girl who tried to please everyone, tried not to disappoint anyone, carried everything on my shoulders simply because I was the oldest. But in the end, it was my silence that fed their disregard. It was my unconditional kindness that became a stepping stone for others to walk all over. Not anymore. Now I know how to say no without explanation, without apology. I still love my family in my own way, but I love myself more. And that's not selfish, that's awakening. That weekend, I sat on my porch, a glass of wine in hand, watching the Texas sunset paint the sky red. No one called. No one texted, just the wind and the sound of my own soul exhaling in peace. I didn't win by getting revenge. I won by stepping out of the same old cycle in steady shoes with unshakable belief. And I knew, from that moment on, my life was no longer an extension of anyone else's, it was mine, period. And Begin Lila's story is a powerful reminder that not every family is a safe place, especially when you're only seen as a tool. She learned that silence isn't love. Sometimes it's the trap that swallows kindness whole. Only when Lila stopped seeking validation from those who didn't deserve it did she truly step into her own life. In real life, peace doesn't come from overdue apologies. It comes the moment you set boundaries and choose to value yourself. What do you think about Lila's choice? Have you ever found yourself in her shoes, stretching too thin for family while losing yourself in the process? Share your thoughts below and don't forget to follow the channel for more deeply moving real-life stories.